Mushroom Wonderland.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Aaron Hilliard for Mushroom Wonderland, and it is March, and I'm in Western Washington, right about sea level, me and my doggy, and we're gonna go for a bike ride out in the forest and see what kind of mushrooms we have growing in March. And we're not gonna find any real popular wild culinary edibles like the chanterelle or lobster mushroom or nothing like that this time of year. Maybe just a little bit early for oysters, maybe just a little bit early for like morels and verpas, but we might find some edible mushrooms out here. Mainly we're going to be just looking at whatever mushrooms we come across out here on this trail in this county park and see what we got growing out here. So thanks for joining Mushroom Wonderland. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. If you get value out of videos like this, give it a thumbs up and leave a positive comment so I know what you guys want to see. And thanks for joining. So let's go hit the woods and see what we got growing out here in March 2022.
So I see a couple of little mushrooms right over here on the side of the trail. These ones are kind of pretty. They got this little orangey kind of color with a darker disc in the center of the pileus or the cap there. Real dark stems with a little bit of, looks like chevron patterns kind of growing on the stems there. Would make me maybe initially think of a Flammulina because of how dark it is, or maybe a Galerina. But this one is a Xeromphalina fulvipes, or it's been recently renamed to Hymeomyces fulvipes. It's in the Mycenaceae, so it's one of these little white spored mycena-like mushrooms. It grows in a little group like this. This one's growing on a little bit of dead wood, but you know, it's got these crowded adnate kind of yellowish gills, really pretty crowded in there. It has a white spore print, and they're probably edible. It's got this really tough little stipe on it, but yeah, you could probably eat this thing, but it's super bitter. I've tasted one before and had a hard time getting the taste out of my mouth. So the Xeromphalina fulvipes, probably gonna just leave those there. Beautiful stout little mushrooms, and the caps are very small, but beautiful little mushroom. Kind of a rare one, actually.
Good find, boy? Is that a good find? He's ready to keep going. It's beautiful out here. You ready to go? Yeah, all right, let's do it.
I saw another one right here. Wow, this is pretty interesting. I see a lot of these growing this year. These ones, Pseudoplectania is the genus. I'm not exactly sure of what species this is. Could be Nigrella, but a fairly common little black cup fungi that grow here. This is an ascomite, so this is related to related to morels and helvella. It's in the order Pisiziales, so it's related to the Pisiza cup fungi. So always growing on a dead little stick like this. Pseudoplectania, or the ebony cup. This one, I don't think it would be edible. They're very brittle and kind of dry. I mean, you could probably eat it and it wouldn't kill you, but I guess it would be considered sort of an inedible one. It's kind of like eating the orange peel fungus or the Pisiza cup fungi. I just think they're really cool to look at. And this is, oh yeah, here's some little tiny, these look like the Galerina vitiformis group. You got these little kind of dark stems and these striate cap. You know, the cap's got these little lines on it. The Galerina vitiformis, these are, yeah, I got this real dark stipe down towards the bottom. Good mushroom for mycoremediation. I talked about these in one of my last foraging videos. So cool little mushroom, great at pulling heavy metals and toxins and transforming them back into organic, usable materials. So the Galerina, not only just a genus of deadly mushrooms, but of useful mushrooms like that. And then these, I just see, I'm seeing these everywhere this year. These ones are super common in Western Washington. Look at all the rhizomorphs on the bottom of the stipe here on this. This is an Entoloma species, probably a Noelina species. It's hard to pinpoint these without some microscopy, but it's one of these little Mycena-like mushrooms, but it's actually got a pink spore print, light buff pink spore print, so falls into the Entomomiaceae or the Entoloma genus or subgenus Noelina. Potentially toxic, so not one that I want to eat. Finding a lot of these out here. I'm going to sprinkle some of those spores and leave that guy behind. But you see a lot of those, and I'm not sure on the exact species. There's more of them. They're just everywhere here. So every time I pick one, I'm actually spreading spores around better than it would do here in this calm little patch of conifer forest where not a lot of wind is happening. The spores are mainly just falling directly underneath the mushroom, but when I pick it up and kick around the spores, it's good for it. So I just about went flying past some mushrooms growing right here off this little stump. Look at this. I've talked a lot about these in the past few months' videos. This is a highly medicinal mushroom used for the treatment of cancer, amongst other things, anti-inflammation, antibacterial, antioxidant. These are some kind of unique ones and really dark color. I've heard the dark ones are even more medicinal than the average one. And this has, see this white pore surface underneath the bottom of it that is indicative of the Trametes versicolor. So you can see it's got these little pores. Let me see if I can zoom in on that a little bit better. Yeah, there you go. You can see the pores there, little bugs crawling on there. But this is the Trametes versicolor, or the turkey tail mushroom. Looks a little bit like a cartoon turkey tail, but these pores under there are definitely a sign of the turkey tail. Not a ton growing right here, but these really dark ones are cool. I don't know. I've been told that they are more medicinal. So sprinkle a couple of those spores around, and we're going to leave those there to just kind of do their thing out here in the forest. All right, so I saw what could be some pretty interesting... Gunner, come on, man. So these are what I think are some pretty dang interesting mushrooms right down here. Let's have a look. They look pretty ugly to the naked eye. Kind of plain to ugly looking little mushrooms that are growing here. But they do have this kind of brown speckling, almost looks like bruising or something on the tops of the caps, and they grow in weird little clusters like this. And so these mushrooms, if you look, the gills are kind of slightly decurrent. They're running down the stipe, and makes it look a bit like a Clitocybe, which is exactly what this is. It's actually growing off of a stump of an old Helvella vespertina that was growing here. This is the parasitic Clitocybe, or a Clitocybe scleratoidea. So interesting mushrooms. See, there's old rotting stumps. This was a small patch of Helvella vespertina that was probably growing a couple months ago, and when they start to rot, these mushrooms grow off of them, which is sort of a rare thing in the mushroom world. Is a basidiomyte like these that actually drop spores that's growing off an ascomyte. It happens the other way around pretty often, but the parasitic Clitocybe, sort of a cool mushroom, kind of a rare one. And I know somebody who wants to sync with this, so we're going to take these home with us today and ship them off in the mail. So here, growing on another twig, another saprotrophic mushroom here. One that showed up on, I believe it was February mushroom foraging, but this is the Alpine Jelly Cone. Look how cool they are. They seem to be a little more robust right now than they were earlier in the season, but this is about as big as I ever see them. They're just cute little gummy looking things. They almost look like a basidiomite, the way they have a little stem and a cap, but Guepiniopsis alpina, or the Alpine Jelly Cone, always growing on a dead little piece of wood. Could look like the Dacromyces, or Dacromyces, I should say, or witch's butter, but this one is not, although probably is okay to eat too, if you are so inclined to eat that, the Guepiniopsis alpina. Been seeing a lot of that growing around in these woods today. This is a trip, so I'm just walking down the trail, and I look up on this branch, and there's this weird foreign thing kind of sitting here on top of this branch, and would you look at that? It's like a sclerotia. It's like an earth ball that I bet you a squirrel dug it up. It's all gnawed on, and then they set it there. It's kind of their snack holder. Found a little squirrel snack holder. So weird, little earth ball sitting on a branch. I don't know, maybe a human did that. People are weird. People can be very weird, huh, Gunner? Yeah. So here we got this big dead tree. I noticed this as I was riding down the trail, so I thought we should talk about. Look, there's these big mushrooms that are growing up there. If you've been in the woods in the Pacific Northwest and have paid any attention whatsoever, you will have noticed these conchs that grow on dead wood. Here's some of them just got knocked off the tree when it fell down, I suppose. Yeah, but there's some fresh ones up here on the tree that fell down. So here's these are a good example of the red-belted conch, super common mushroom, probably the most common mushroom in the woods around here. Big conch that grows on a tree. This one, obviously the tree just fell down, but oh, there's some more of the Alpine Jelly Cones. But Fomitopsis mounceae, that is what this is. It's the red-belted conch. You can see it's kind of red looking, and really common brown rot decayer here, another Entaloma melanea species. But yeah, there are definitely some mushrooms growing out here. These mushrooms, the Fomitopsis mounceae, you'll find these growing all months of the year, so not just in March. And what do we got here? Check this out. I already know what this is growing here on the side of this base of this rotting stump, and this is actually not a typical mushroom. This is a lichen that grows a little mushroom on it. How cool is that? So at the base of these is some green little balls that are basically the body of the lichen, and then the lichen grows a little basidiomite looking mushroom structure to spread spores. So what a unique thing this is. Lichen umbellifera, or the Lichen Agaric would be the common name. Much easier to say the Lichen Agaric. But underneath each one of these fruiting bodies is a little patch of lichen on the tree. So I'm liking that. Beautiful little mushrooms. They look like they could be in a fairy tale or something like that. How cool. And you see those little rhizomorphs, the little fuzz at the bottom of the foot. That's where the lichen's growing. Amazing. Huh, Gunner? Man, look at this stick that I found of the Alpine Jelly Cones. This has got to be like one of the biggest fruitings I've ever seen. I mean, each individual fruiting body is huge. These are definitely the biggest ones. Look at how much they look like a basidiomite, right? With the cap and a stem. It's all one thing here, you know. It's not separate parts. It's just a different version of orange jelly fungus that's growing on dead conifer sticks here in the Northwest, but tons of these Alpine Jelly Cones, Guepiniopsis. I think it has a new name, actually. I'm probably saying the outdated name, but it's a fun one to say. I like looking around the dead wood. This is where you find a lot of mushrooms. Dead wood. You know, what we're finding today are, you know, saprotrophic mushrooms. Wow, look at this. So look at this log that I just stumbled upon, covered in this Stereum, this some species of Stereum, a relative of the false turkey tail. But look at how cobbled this looks. I mean, it looks like extra crispy fried chicken from KFC or something like that. I don't know. Don't mean to gross anyone out with that, but wow, look at this fruiting here. So very orange. Stereum is also known as a false turkey tail. There's no pores underneath the bottom of the cap. It's just as smooth as the top. So, but what an impressive fruiting happening right here in March. Beautiful. It actually looks really delicious, but it's really tough and woody. It's like eating tree bark or something. So I don't know that it's toxic, but I think it's just inedible because it really is like eating tree bark. But what an amazing fruiting here on this downed hardwood log, probably a big alder, possibly a maple. Wow, we came across this big flush. All these mushrooms are really standing out, and again, it's another one that I've talked about in previous videos, but you know, we're doing up-to-date videos of what's growing out there right now. So a big flush of these. This is known as the black-footed polypore, which shares that common name with a few other mushrooms, but this one is the Pseudoplectania badius. It's a very leathery polyporous type mushroom, grows on dead wood, just like a lot of the mushrooms we've been looking at in this episode. But the Pseudoplectania badius, they started growing back in September, and they're still growing out here in March. And this is a happy little family of them. They're actually all becoming disconnected from the wood. I think they've all reached their lifespan, and they've probably all, you know, sent millions of spores out into the forest. So they've done a good job, and they're still holding up well, man. These mushrooms are very leathery and tough and woody, so they don't mush and go away like other mushrooms. These ones can just hang out in the forest for months, you know. I think that's the case here. These aren't new growth. They're probably pretty old mushrooms. So I spotted one up here on this conifer snag growing here, and we talked about the red belted conch a little bit earlier. This one is related to it. This is in the same genus, so this is a Fomitopsis, but this is a Fomitopsis Orchreca, another pretty common brown rot decayer. When I say brown rot decayer, I mean that what it does is it's eating the inside of the log. This thing is super tough. So this is the spore-bearing fruiting body of what's actually happening within the log. And in this log, it's eating all the cellulose, all the white matter away from the wood, and it will eventually just leave neatly stacked little cubical chunks of brown wood behind. It's really interesting when you see an old log like that, and the mushroom is really just eating all the good cellulose. Man, check out what I came across right here. So these are unexpected find here in March, although they're a little beyond their prime. I wouldn't be eating these right now, but man, a month ago I would have been excited to find these. This is the Craterellus tubiformis, or the winter chanterelle, and these are growing here and kind of tucked in between these logs and stuff. And so its common name is the chanterelle, winter chanterelle, but these mushrooms are actually not even in the genus Canthorellus, with the golden Pacific chanterelle that everybody's after in the fall. This is the Craterellus tubiformis, so a different genus, but a delicious wild edible, also known as a yellowfoot, but the yellow is pretty much faded from these because they're so old. You can see how old they are, but surprisingly not riddled with insects. They just kind of get old like this. I would avoid eating those just for fear of like food poisoning because they're so old. And don't eat rotten stuff, you know. Right down here at the base of this tree. So this is kind of exciting. This is the first time I've spotted one of these this spring, and just by looking at it, kind of looks like a golf ball, and it's really thick. And yeah, this is a mushroom, and so this is a young Amanita button growing right here. Look how fat this is. And don't worry, I know there's going to be thousands of these popping up within the next few weeks. It just happens to be the first one that I saw. And so you could confuse this for all kinds of things, but this is a young mushroom button. And I know it's in the genus Amanita because I've seen these for years growing in the spring. Let me get my knife out, show you what this looks like inside. Ta-da! Look at that. You can see this really kind of yellowy, orangish sort of ring, and that's going to be the top of the cap, and it's kind of apricot colored, and it's actually because this is called Amanita aprica, and it's a relative of Amanita muscaria, but this is a spring-loving mushroom and likely toxic. You know, this is related to death caps and destroying angel mushrooms. The Amanita genus can be a dangerous genus of mushrooms. There's also some delicious edible ones, this not being one of them, but you can see the young formation of the Amanita aprica in there. So exciting. That is a good sign, beginning of spring here.
To be honest with you, here in Western Washington, there's just not a huge mycoflora happening in the spring, especially super early spring. Like right now, it's not even officially spring yet, but I see posts on the internet from other places around the world and even around the country, and there's all kinds of mushrooms happening in Northern California and Southern Oregon and stuff like that, but we just don't have a lot going on here yet. So it's mostly saprotrophic mushrooms. Not going to find a lot of mycorrhizal mushrooms growing this time of year. And yeah, mushrooms are seasonal, so it doesn't just need to be 50 to 60 degrees for them to grow. Chanterelles are not going to grow in the spring around here, straight up. Neither are the Boletus edulis, and neither are lobster mushrooms or matsutake. So we've got a pretty limited amount of mushrooms, so we're doing our best to see what we can today. So I hope you're enjoying. All right, so I got this collection of the Clitocybe sclerotoidea home, and I laid them out on this plate with a paper towel to dry, and these are actually going to be sent in the mail after they're dry with the exact iNaturalist observation on them to Alan Rockefeller, who's going to sequence these and try to discover if they're in fact the same Clitocybe sclerotoidea or the parasitic Clitocybe that grows with Helvella lacunosa out east, or if this is a new species. And it seems like there's a big division between mushrooms east or west of the Rocky Mountains, so there's a really good chance that these are actually a new species or an unnamed species, but it'll be interesting to find that out. So maybe in a later video we can have a little follow-up, but yeah, these mushrooms are going to do big things. So the parasitic Clitocybe, interesting mushroom, not only to me, hopefully to you, but also to learned mycologists around the world. And this is what the mushrooms shriveled up into after just 2 days of drying out. So these are going to get shipped off for sequencing and see if that's actually their name or not. But thank you for joining Mushroom Wonderland, and we will see you on the next episode. Much love, everyone.